Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the viewing and listening audience to this, the 30th meeting of the Joint Select Committee on Social Services and Public Administration. This meeting is being recorded for subsequent broadcast on ParlView and the Parliament radio channel and on our online services. This committee meeting is the second follow-up hearing related to regulating geriatric care facilities / old age homes. I'm the committee's chairman, Paul Richards. At this time, I would like members of the committee to please introduce themselves, starting on my extreme right.
General Antwine, member.
Good morning. My name is Khadija Amin. I'm an opposition senator, member of the committee.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Alison West, member.
Good morning. Welcome. My name is Christine Uwalu Hussain, member.
Good morning, all. Rohan Sananan, member.
Thank you, members. And the only member who is not with us is member Esmond Ford, MP, who is out of the country. The entities before us today are officials from the Ministry of Social Development and Family Services, officials from the Ministry of Health, officials from the Trinidad and Tobago Residential Care Association, and officials of the Trinidad Tobago Police Service. At this time, I'd like entities before us and their members to please identify themselves, starting with the Ministry of Social Development and Family Services, followed by the Ministry of Health, followed by the Trinidad Tobago Residential Care Association, and the officials from the Trinidad Tobago Police Service.
Good morning, Chair, members. I'm Jacinta Bailey Sobers, the Permanent Secretary in the Ministry of Social Development and Family Services.
Good morning, Chair, members. My name is Vijay Gangapasad, Acting Deputy Permanent Secretary in the Ministry of Social Development and Family Services.
Hi, good morning, Chair, members. Asif Ali, Permanent Secretary, Ministry of Health.
Good morning, all. Dr. Roshan Parasram, Chief Medical Officer, Ministry of Health.
Good morning, Chair, members. Bisham Sitaram, Ministry of Health.
Good morning, Chair members. Savita Birbal, Legal Officer, Ministry of Social Development and Family Services.
Good morning, Chair members. JSC Division of Aging, Social Development and Family Services.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Caroline Rose, TTRCA, President.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Nigel Walcott, Compliance and Officer, TTRCA.
Good morning, Chair and members. I'm Mrs. Amira Ali, Advisor for TTRCA for improved operational standards, as well as a homeowner.
Good morning, members. My name is Harold Phillip, Acting Deputy Commissioner of Police, Crime and Support.
Good morning, members. I am Aisha Corby, Manager, Victim and Witness Support Unit, Trinidad and Tobago Police Service.
Chair, members, good morning. My name is Jason Ford. I'm the Acting Assistant Commissioner of Police, Trinidad and Tobago Police Service, with responsibility for anti-crime operations.
Good morning, Chair and members. My name is Nigel Hosford. I'm an Acting Inspector of Police with the Kappa Branch, TTPS.
Thank you, and we also remember welcome and thank members in our public gallery for joining us today. The main objective of today's hearing is to ascertain what direct, urgent, and practical interventions, if any, are being pursued by the relevant ministries and other stakeholders to protect the elderly who are housed in geriatric or old age homes in Trinidad and Tobago. I'll ask members when they are making their contributions, to direct your contributions through me, the chair, and please remember to turn on your microphones, and the persons in the second row, please identify yourselves when you're speaking so that the Hansard recorders can accurately identify who is making what contribution or asking what question at that time. At this time, we'd like the chief officials of each entity to make brief opening remarks, usually about 2-3 minutes, starting with Mrs. Jacinta Bailey Sobers, Permanent Secretary, Ministry of Social Development and Family Services.
Thank you, Chair, and Good morning again to all those who are present here and to those who may also be listening via the radio, the television, or streaming, either from the comfort of their homes or at offices or during commute. I want to begin on a light note, extending best wishes to all today as we observe the International Day of Happiness. This was celebrated first in 2013 and seeks to highlight happiness as a state of being that is part of our human right. And we may all be interested to know that Trinidad and Tobago is ranked 38th on the World Happiness Index and first among the Caribbean countries, the happiest people in the region. So I encourage us to do something today to inspire and share happiness with someone. And I know probably as we look at our older persons, we may feel, is this relevant? But we also want to ensure that our older persons, wherever they are in their homes or maybe in accommodation elsewhere, that they are also happy. So, Chairman, as I revert to the business of the day, the Ministry of Social Development and Family Services is pleased to be present here once again. We've been here before, and we welcome every opportunity to share further insights into our responses to alleviating the plight of our elderly citizens, with the intention of making their experiences at our geriatric homes and also their places of residence as far as possible in communities a pleasant one. The matter under discussion remains an urgent one for the ministry and by extension the government, as we remain persistent, vigilant, active in resolving the issues faced by our senior citizens. And of course, as we move toward the 2030 Vision Agenda, which highlights the critical need of our health and social sectors to be more responsive to the needs of the elderly and to the establishment of standards for institutional care. So I want to state at the outset that the Ministry of Social Development views older persons as a very vulnerable group. We deal with a number of these types of groups, and the ministry is working assiduously with its key partners at the table here with us this morning in the sector and otherwise to protect this target group as we do what is necessary to enhance the quality of life for our senior citizens. As an update, since we met in November on this topic, and more specifically, we have been looking at the regulations and standardization of the old age homes and other geriatric care facilities with the Ministry of Health. And I would like to advise that we have made that commitment to work collaboratively with the Ministry of Health in terms of the assessment of the 219, according to our records, homes that have been identified to date. Since the last meeting of the committee, we have been expediting the actions necessary for the proclamation of the Homes for Older Persons Act. We would have indicated that we would want to facilitate the proclamation by the end of the third quarter of this fiscal, and we do have a working committee which comprises persons from this ministry and health working towards that particular objective. The ministry also continues to forge other relationships and foster new ones with other partners as we work towards this particular objective. And we also welcome the members of the recently established associations and groups to join with us so that we would be able to determine, what's happening in the homes across the country. It's also our ministry's belief, Mr. Chairman, that the introduction of a mechanism for residents and family members to be aware of the rights of residents, the quality of care which is due to them, and the avenues for lodging independent complaints is necessary. So we are also looking at a resident charter of rights and how this could be implemented probably by the end of April 2019. And of course, we will have to have greater collaboration with the association at the table on this matter. We continue through the OPIC, which is the Older Persons Information Call Center for reporting on elder abuse, either at homes or for older persons in private spaces. Every night you will see the information on OPIC ticker taped across the screen as the news is broadcast. And of course, we are out there in the communities through our outreaches and the outreaches of other organizations, spreading the news about OPIC and about elder abuse and how persons can actually report on these issues. We also have the community care program, as you may know, where we assist with Ministry of Health to deinstitutionalize levels 1 to 3 patients who are discharged but still resident at the Port of Spain and San Fernando General Hospitals and other hospitals around the country. So we are doing our part and working towards the objectives of the committee and committed to those actions that we have indicated at the other meetings that we will implement. We look forward to another informative and productive session today as we engage. Chair.
Thank you very much,
Thank
Mrs.
you.
Bailey-Sobers. Can we have a contribution from Mr. Asif Ali, Acting Permanent Secretary in the Ministry of Health, please?
Thank you. Good morning again, Chair, members of the committee, and my colleagues appearing on this side. On behalf of the Ministry of Health, I just want to take this opportunity to reaffirm the Ministry's commitment to ensuring that the elderly are provided with the quality of health care that they truly deserve. At this time, the Ministry does that through the assessment and licensing of the geriatric homes under our legislation, the Private Hospitals Act. In our continuing efforts to ensure that the various homes meet those standards that are established for private hospitals under our legislation, the Ministry has established a relationship with the Trinidad and Tobago Residential Care Association, working with them with regard to ensuring that their members meet the standards under our legislation. We also continue to collaborate with our sister ministry, Ministry of Social Development and Family Services, as P.S. Bailey-Sobers said, as they work towards the full proclamation of their legislation, the Home for Older Persons Act. The Ministry of Health is grateful for this opportunity to be here today, and we look forward to these discussions, hoping that we get a better understanding of the salient issues affecting the elderly so that we can all work towards providing quality services in a timely and efficient manner. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Ali. And next, we have a contribution from Mr. Harold Phillip, Acting Deputy Commissioner of Police.
Good morning once again. The Trinidad and Tobago Police Service, given their mandate, which is to make every place and community in Trinidad and Tobago safe, and that includes the community of the elderly. As the agency responsible for enforcing the laws, we try to be responsive and attentive to the reports made against the elderly. Our organization is ensuring that we work in closer collaboration and cooperation with our stakeholders, all with a view of reducing the incidence of crime and violence against the elderly, and with a view of enhancing the quality of life of that community. So we are eternally grateful to be here today.
Thank you, DCP Phillip. And Mrs. Caroline Ruiz, President of the TTRCA.
Sorry. Pleasant good morning, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, Ministry of Health, Ministry of Social Development and Family Services, the TTPS, and the viewing nation. I thank you for the opportunity to be here to contribute to this session. I am Ms. Caroline Ruiz, homeowner, the president of Trinidad and Tobago Residential Care Association, TTRCA. We represent righteousness and cooperative homeowners nationwide. We advocate for their rights and respect. We support the initiative by both the Ministry of Health and the Division of Aging to improve the operational standards of homes for the elderly by making efforts towards our compliance and legitimacy. This is in direct alignment with our best practice for the elderly. We uphold a person-centered approach to elderly care, to our seniors who once contributed to building our nation in their youth. Aging is not a new process, but the very process where we take pride in protecting their safety, comfort, dignity, and well-being. We, TTRCA, strongly condemn abuse in any form, and we are enthusiastic about the recent partnership with the Ministry of Health. This has inspired all homeowners to realize the value of their continued commitment of service that they provide to the vulnerable group of elders to improve their quality of life. Today is a memorable day in the history of our nation. Indeed, it is a memorable day for all homeowners, whereby we have a voice to be heard. To support TTRCA today, I have with me my team members, Mr. Nigel Walcott, advisor to TTRCA as our Compliance Assessment Officer, and Mrs. Amira Ali, homeowner, and the advisor to TTRCA for improved operational standards. We are looking forward to a successful and meaningful outcome here today. I thank you.
Thank you very much, Mrs. Ruiz. Once again, just to underscore, I know there have been, I'm going to quote from 2 newspaper articles, this is the second meeting, a follow-up to our first meeting, and our intention and our mandate as a committee, and I guess by extension as a parliament, is to protect and uphold the rights of all citizens, inclusive of the elderly, in terms of their well-being and security and their families, and to identify challenges stakeholders may be having, including ministries and the association, and to make recommendations for solutions in the interest of the safety and well-being of the elderly. So I'm just going to start by identifying that it is not or has never been our intention to demonize the entire swath of elderly care homes in Trinidad and Tobago. But as a responsible committee, there are many media reports that come to us and many direct bits of information that come to us about, while they're homes that are run very well, they are homes that are being run at substandard care levels. And we have to identify what the gaps are and provide solutions. So according to the Express article dated Monday, the 25th of February, 2019, Mrs. Ruiz is indicating that the organization was formed on the 14th of February, 2018 and incorporated on October 24th, 2018. There are 115 members with 239 operational homes for the elderly in Trinidad and Tobago. And just from a cursory listening, I get a sense that you've put systems in place in your organization to monitor the operations of these 239 operational homes. However, that is juxtaposed against an article in The Guardian of Thursday, the 21st of February, which is just 4 days before the article I just referenced, by Rondo Dowlat, which states the headline, "State officials raid unsanitary elderly home, 20 residents rescued." And it goes on to say that 3 elderly women are among 20 persons who were rescued from a senior citizen's home in Arima that was described as a house of horrors by state officials and police officers. So while we will know, obviously have to know that there are homes that are being run properly, if one elderly person is in danger or is not being cared for properly, that is of great concern to us. And I'll start by asking Mrs. Ruiz, of these 239 operational homes, disaggregate for us what is meant by a member as opposed to a home, because the article says you have 115 members with 239 operational homes for the elderly, please.
In our check, Mr. Chairman, in our check, we got 239 homes. That's when we started to do our database and finding homes, and we think there's a lot more than 239. But that is what we got at present. And joining the TTRCA members, it's 115 so far.
What are the requirements for membership?
Our requirements are that we try to get all the homes in so that we can get an idea of all the homes, and we have put systems in place where we have reviews to the homes so that we can get to know what the homes are like, So we are putting things with that in place presently. But they come, they pay their monthly fee to join the association for us to be able to go further. Thank you.
You are just a little over a year in terms of your incorporation. Actually, your establishment, I should say. You incorporated on October 24th, 2018, which is like about 4 months ago. What are your challenges in terms of, how do you assess these homes, these 115 members, in terms of your resources? What are the parameters for assessment as to whether these homes are being run up to a particular standard of care and safety and well-being of residents?
We are not able, Mr. Chair, we are not able to go into homes because we can't just go into people's homes. However, being on the committee, we have put in place where we have a review team, operational team, so that we are getting them to do like something like a pre-inspection so that the person that is on the executive will have an idea of what the home is running, if it is up to compliance or not, right? That was one way. Another way of getting information into the homes and out from the homes, we brought on doctors on call, GP online, where this doctor, at a reasonable fee, goes to the homes once you require him. So when he gets to the homes, we get a little light on what happens at these homes, right? We cannot say that we are in the homes because we are not in the homes.
So the homes are self-reporting? Is that what you're saying? How do you verify the information that the homes are providing?
Pardon me?
How do you verify the information that the homes are providing, and what is the general format for compliance? Because if I am if this is just my opinion, if I'm operating an organization that has a particular membership that caters to a vulnerable group, I'm presuming that you have particular parameters for membership because you don't want to accept persons who are not operating at a particular standard into your organization because that might cast your organization in a particular light. So what are the standard operating procedures or the operating parameters within which membership is, members are eligible?
Mr. Chairman, I want you to first understand that this association is a new association, right? We formed in February. And we wanted to get the homeowners out because homeowners tend to not want to come forward, right? So what we did is that we sold ourselves to these homeowners, meaning that we wanted them to know it didn't matter what level or what state you are at homes, come speak with us and we will see how we can help each other in becoming compliant. Our challenges with that, however, is a lot of homeowners are facing problems due to finances, right? And those are some of the issues that we need to touch on because to keep a home up to standard is a costly thing, right? And healthcare is costly, but we are not getting that as homeowners. So that could be, I believe that is number one, right? So in saying that, we try to get them because we know that there are homes that are not compliant, right? So we are trying to get them out, and that was our way of getting them out. And then we opened up a chat, and they started to send message, and we started to liaise with each other. And we have a little bit of some of them, but we cannot say for all of them as yet. So we are putting systems in place to get into the homes ourselves. We also liaised with Ministry of Health, and we spoke with them because we have good plans, I believe, and we spoke with them and we want to work along with them because we want to get in there because it's unfair that some of us work really hard and some takes this as a joke and then all of us are painted with the same brush that we are not being compliant or going forward or treating our elderlies, and we need to get that out.
I'll open the floor now to Member Jennings-Smith.
Good morning, Ms. Rees. In your opening remarks, you stated that you have 239 homes registered and 115 members. I need some clarification. Is it that those 115 members have more than one home? Or is it that you know of 239 homes existing out there? But not all are members. Can you clarify?
In our search for homes and to get homes on our listing, when we did our check and we went around, there was 239 homes, right? We don't have 239 homeowners in our association. We have 150.
Okay, great. So that you have 115 members listed and which you monitor. You already have information that there are 239 homes out there, and you are an association and your priority is care for the elderly. What is your relationship with the Ministry of Social Services, the Ministry of Health, in bringing this information to them and seeking assistance from them in having some kind of a monitoring and evaluation done to these homes out there, which seem to me to be out of view?
For clarity, of your 150 members, do you have a listing of clients served, numbers of clients served by these 115 members in your association? Would you have that information?
Mr. Chairman, we are working on that. We're still trying to get our database together, right?
So the homes don't say, well, I'm registering and I have 50 members, 10 members, 12 members. When they register with you?
When they
So they
come,
don't tell you how many members?
we register as homeowners.
Okay.
And we are now putting that in place.
Best question now, thank you.
Right. When we heard of the incident in St. James, that is when all the homeowners start to get up and say, well, what is happening? And we try communicating with one another. Then when this came out, that was, I think, the last straw of it, because we find that these things come out and we're not aware, we don't know, and we are never asked or invited to anything other than maybe forums where they try to tell us what they would want from Ministry of Health and from Division of Aging, from DOA. And we decided that we want to go out there because it is not fair for us. We got a meeting after inviting Ministry of Social Development and Family Services to one of our meetings for Christmas at A. Lucky's, and we also invited Ministry of Health, and they didn't turn up. However, Division Social Development mentioned to us that they will have a meeting coming forward. They could not have attended. We attended that meeting on the 16th of January, right? And we thought, after speaking with them and letting them know what we had and what we wanted as homeowners, that they would have then keep in touch with us, liaise with us, and we were moving forward, and that is how it appeared to us. But when we left there, I have tried calling back Mr. Dennis Williams. We send out letters to the Minister of Social Development and Family Services. We send out letters to the President. We send letters to you all, JSC, because we wanted to get our voice heard, because, I mean, it affects us in a lot of ways, right? And recently, Ministry of Health reached out to us, and they started to work with us, and we are working with them.
I want you to be more specific. I asked the question that there are a number of homes out there which seem to be out of the knowledge of the authorities. And I ask you specifically to tell me what kind of a relationship you have with the ministries in finding those homes, in registering those homes, and getting information as to what's taking place within those walls.
Okay.
What is your relationship with the institutions and the ministries in getting to those homes which you seem not to have a hand on?
We are working with Ministry of Health because we want to get to those homes. However, there's only so much we could do as a new association. We are trying to trying to gather database. We are trying to get the homeowners to come out to us. We want to go in. However, Ministry of Health, we told them that their What they request is way too much for us as homeowners. It is we are not hospitals. We are homeowners, right? We do not want them to take away that from us or anybody else. That is why we went into there. We want our relatives, our clients to feel as though they are in home, at their own home.
So let me stop you. So in conclusion, are you saying that you recommend that the Ministry of Health and Social Services get more involved in locating these homes and having that kind of a relationship with them?
Yes.
Have you documented anything like that to the both ministries for assistance in that regard, having the knowledge that these homes exist out there and no one seems to be monitoring them?
I wouldn't say no. I wouldn't say no one seems to be monitoring them. That would be unfair to say, because the DOA, along with the Ministry of Health, I know that they visit homes. We know that from our chat that we have for homeowners. We know exactly when they go. We know what kind of questions and what they ask for. So things like that, we are now getting feedbacks on.
So are you saying that you do have communication with all 239 homes now? Are you telling us that?
The homes that are on the chat, which
No.
is 115.
No, I need your clarification on that because you are going between the numbers. I asked you about your relationship with the 239 homes, and you said quite clearly you don't have that relationship with 239
I don't have 239
I asked you if you were in communication with the both ministries to get assistance to determine where those homes are, to have some kind of a control or information as to what goes on behind those walls. And I further asked you if you ever had the opportunity to request or write to the ministries, because you have the information, and what as an association, what have you done to bring in the ministry and to have the collaboration and intervention of the ministries?
Member, let me just interject here. Maybe I can bring the ministry officials in so they can, from their perspectives, talk about their interactions with the association. And then I'll invite Member Amin and Member West and Member Sinanan to make interrogations. So let's start with the Ministry of Health and then the Ministry of Social Services in terms of your interactions with the association. Please.
Sorry. But before I just want to congratulate the new association, because if you just formed in February and we're in March, having been involved in several last year, yeah, but still 1 year in an organization, 1 year in an organization as important as this is not really a long time to achieve what we've been trying to achieve for the last 20 years. So let me congratulate you all on that.
Committee congratulates you.
Yes. Mr. Ali, these homes fall under the Private Hospital Act, and we cannot depend on the association to police the homes. That is not the responsibility of the association. The association really is to support its members and to try to improve. Okay, so I don't want us or the viewing public to feel that the association has that responsibility, because that could never be the responsibility of an association. It has to be the responsibility of whoever governs that. They have been under the Private Hospital Act for quite a while. Could you tell us what percentage of these homes that you monitor on a monthly basis, annual basis, how you monitor them, and what percentage of these homes that you would think that are below what is an acceptable standard? So I don't know if you could, when you're answering the question, your support could bear that into the conversation.
Thank you, Member. Chair, before I get to Member Sinanan's question, we have been having discussions with the association. The question was asked in terms of the 239 homes that they are aware of and what we have. So we would have had on our database 219 homes. We have shared that with the association. They have shared their list with us. We want to make sure that they're the same, and where they are those that we don't have on our list, we would then pick those up, and they will form part of our inspection and assessment process.
So you're reconciling both your databases?
Yeah, yes, that's one. Ms. Ruiz alluded to it. We have also shared with the association our checklist. So what we use when we go into assess a home, we share that with them. So by no means are they supposed to regulate the homes, but I think that would help them when they're working with their members to understand what the ministry requires. All right, so they have that also. That's pretty recent. So they also have that checklist. And this is the specific question I was just asked. I want to hand over to the CMO to maybe answer that part of it.
So in terms of the inspections, I mean, just to update you on the inspections, I know we would have given some figures, but there's an update in terms of what we have done so far since our last meeting as well. So we looked at applications submitted thus far. Out of the 219, we have written to all 219 homes that we had on our database. We actually wrote to them twice to follow up to make sure that they apply for the license, they are aware of it, and they pay their fees. So out of the 219, we actually only got applications submitted for 84 thus far. And that is where I think there's a pivot.
Is it 290 or 219?
219. Right? So, so far, as I said, applications have been submitted in a number of 84 thus far, meaning that they have applied and they have paid their fees. Out of the remaining, and that's where we see there's a key role for the Homeowners Association, because we have written twice. We have reached out to them by phone as well, to a lot of them, and we have not gotten persons to come in and apply. And we had that in the discussion with the Homeowners Association, and I think that's where they have a key role to get people to come in and apply for their license. Just to go a little bit more into as we assess the homes, we have assessed 74 of the 84 so far. A little bit outside of that, there were 30 homes that would have been red flagged for us from social development in the initial group, which were what they thought was below the standard, and you asked the percentage. I think the initial 30 would have been at a low level of care, and then they added an additional 13 to that. So we looked at 43.
What do you describe as a low level of care?
When it was it is basically homes that would have been flagged to social development through their OPIC system, meaning that they would have received some level of complaint about treatment of the members. So basically 43 out of the 200 would have been flagged to us as urgent cases for attention. So if you look at that as 20 to 25%, thereabouts. So in terms of answering your question, it looks like about that percent. In terms of recommended license, we actually, out of that lot, we recommended 19 for licensure thus far, out of the 74 homes that have been actually inspected and assessed. We have issued 4 licenses, but there's a little gap. We have issued 4 licenses because these are the ones that have been recommended and actually applied. So we actually inspected a few homes that have not applied already. We took that decision a few weeks ago that even after writing, not getting an application for license, I think it is our duty still to go and inspect. So we took the decision after we dealt with the urgent ones to go ahead and inspect the remaining homes, and we have a schedule for that which began in March and should end by May. So by the end of May, we should conclude our inspections of all 219 that we have on the database.
And just for clarity, I don't know if the Ministry of Social Development wants to be the entity that answers this question. The 25% that have been described as, I think it's 43.
43.
For urgent attention. What would be the red flags that would have been the indicators for urgent attention, so the public gets a sense of what is the standard of care that is basic, and when entities fall below that, what we're looking for?
Thank you, Chair. I'm aware that usually we would red flag those that come through the OPIC hotline in terms of complaints on elderly abuse. We would usually red flag those. We will do an initial investigation, and then we would refer it once it's necessary to Ministry of Health or to the police, depending on the nature when we go out to investigate the issue. Yeah. We also do some inspections. I'll let you.
There's no specificity regarding the complaint. Is it negligence? Is it physical abuse? Is it emotional
verbal abuse, physical abuse, assault, financial abuse? These are some of the areas. But I will ask Ms. Yawashu to give some more information, because when we go out to do inspections, we also have different levels that we look at, and it depends on how many areas they are non-compliant. They may also refer it. She may also refer it to Ministry of Health. Ms. Yawashu?
Before you go to the other aspect. I just want to clarify, Ministry of Health, because I didn't get it clear, the answer that I was looking for. Is it that the Ministry of Health is the regulator, right? Is it that you depend on information from social services before you, and they flag something and then you go and inspect? Or is it that you have a department that not only when they apply for a license, you will go out, or because we had these issues coming up? Is it that you have a system where every 6 months you will go to each, you are the regulator, all right? And maybe in some instances, somebody might say, okay, my license is coming up annually, so I'll clean up the place annually because they're going to come. Do you have a system in place where you visit these homes on a time basis to ensure that they are compliant all the time? Because you are the regulator, it's not social services.
So under the Private Hospital Act, the license, the actual application for a license is an annual license. So it occurs annually. So generally speaking, if a home is compliant, we schedule our inspections routinely. The 43 that was red flagged, we adjusted our schedule to accommodate them and do them first. But the schedule would have proceeded prior to do all 219, whether they were red flagged or not from social development.
And when next year we'll do that?
This is, the list is planned based on the reports from the county. They are done through the county medical officers of health, of which we have 8 in Trinidad and 1 in Tobago. So they send me a schedule as to how they're going to proceed. Their schedule ends at the end of April in terms of inspection. So some counties will have more than others. Some have 40 homes to inspect.
The point I'm trying to get at is there a routine inspection, or is this just a one-off inspection?
No.
Because we're talking about license?
So it has to be inspected prior to licensure, which is at least as a minimum once a year.
Okay.
If there are complaints, we will inspect them again. If there's any issues that come up, we inspect again. If
but you don't have somebody who will just drop in unexpected.
The county medical officer of health can and does drop in unexpectedly to the homes at times, just to ensure so in between the inspection, so our inspection occurs in January, we issue the license. The county medical officer of health is responsible for all public health actions in the county, and they can go in at any time during the year.
But do you see the need now for a division to be monitoring these homes, because you have an expansion, a ballooning of homes now in Trinidad and Tobago? And do you see the need now for a division in the Ministry of Health to ensure that they are compliant? Because we're talking about lives. We're seeing incidents on the newspaper that, and with the internet now, it does not reflect good on a country when you can't take care of the elderly in a manner that is of international standard. So maybe the time is now that you don't just depend on the county medical officer of health, because he has a very large portfolio. And I don't know of homes that they visit, whether it's every 3 months, every 4 months. And the association will probably have information on that. But maybe the time has come now that you need to add some sort of strength to that monitoring, because you are the regulator, and you cannot depend on the information coming out of social services. Because in most cases, the elderly don't report abuses. They will not, because in some cases, they may not have anywhere else to go.
They fear further retaliation. Let me invite Member Amin and Member West to
Chairman, we have had inquiries with the Ministry of Social Development and Family Services and the Ministry of Health to discuss this matter, and I'm really happy that an association is formed and they are now getting the opportunity to make an input at the Joint Select Committee. Mr. Chairman, I just want to confirm that the procedure is that the Ministry of Health would issue license, but that the monitoring of homes usually takes place by the Ministry of Social Development. Is that correct? Ministry of Social would play a role in terms of liaising with the homes to monitor the welfare of the residents?
In the truest sense, because the Private Hospital Act is the governing act at this point, the Ministry of Health is the one should be charged with monitoring as well. But because the social development has a division of aging and they have the OPIC system set up, they get information through that channel, and they feed it to us. But in its purest sense, because of the way the Act is set up, Ministry of Health is the one that is charged with inspection and monitoring and evaluation.
All right, so I get the impression that of course, there are different levels of homes. There are homes in communities that take care of people who are elderly, but are self-sufficient, they can move around. And there are homes who take care of people who are elderly and ill. And so they need support in terms of medical care for those patients. Do you have categories of homes? Because the president of the association has indicated that some of the standards require, for instance, medical equipment and so on. And the Ministry of Health would have to visit and make sure those things are in place, and they will not meet the requirements. Do you have categories?
Yeah, so we have categories 1 to 5. So 1 being a home that will have mostly ambulant well patients, and 5 being on the other side of the spectrum. So the tool that we develop for private hospitals is really for private hospitals, and I think that's what the Homeowners Association was alluding to. And I believe the tool is a little too robust for a type 1 home. And there's a private hospital board, which is chaired by myself, has been set up, and we have some level of discretion. So when we look at a level 1 home, for instance, there must be some discretion at the level of the private hospitals board. When we look at the inspection, we look at the checklist, which is really a tool to assess the status of the home. If we are certain that the quality of care given to that home meets the requirements, based on the checklist as well, we have a level of discretion and subjectivity, which should not be, where we have to determine whether someone gets a license or not. And when we have proclamation, and that's why we look forward to proclamation for the home, the act under the social development, because I think, to be honest, monitoring and evaluation of these homes are better placed under social development, and a less robust tool in terms of type 1, 2, and 3 homes is required to properly assess. And I think that's where we have shared our tool with the Homeowners Association and asked for their input to let us know if we are being a little too harsh in terms of applying the private hospital tool to the homeowners in general, in terms of licensure. But again, I don't want, as the chair of the private hospital board, I don't want it to be said that we are applying a tool and not utilizing the outcome when we get something that is not recommended. So there's a gray area.
Just to interject, when these 5 categories are applied to different cadres of homes, and I guess the licensure applies, well, your home is capable of this standard of care compared to this standard of care. Who does the monitoring? Because I'm going to be very frank about this. Many of these homes are a business. And who is monitoring to see that, well, their home A is licensed for standard 1, and it's not taking clients who need standard 5 care.
Right.
Because that is a conundrum that will put the client at risk, because, and I'm not sure that everyone, I'm not demonizing all homes, but there are some people who are going to take anyone who comes to them because they want the money, and they may not have been licensed for that standard of care. So who's monitoring those contingencies?
So when we do the assessment, we're not granting a license per area. So we're not granting a license for one particular level. We're granting a level as if it was for level 5, based on the Private Hospital Act. So it would mean that you could provide that level of care for a certain number of clients. So the license will definitely pertain for the other 1, 2, 3, and 4 as we go. So the license is not for type 1 only. So if you're taking a type 4 kind of patient, the license doesn't hold. We license at the highest end. And that's why the homeowners have said to us that it's too robust for the majority of them.
Member West.
So to follow up on that, is it that you are indicating that an amendment is required to cater for the different categories of care that are required for the elderly?
I don't think it's an amendment to our act. I think it's proclamation of the Home for the Aged Act is what we look forward to. I know it was supposed to be proclaimed last year, June, and then we were told at the last sitting of the Joint SEDEC we were looking at this year, June, which in communication with social development, they would speak to the date that they want to go forward, but and their challenges.
And to
but
be
we are
clear
looking
on
forward
that,
to it.
Sorry,
yeah.
Is it that the legislation to be proclaimed will adequately address those issues, or does it need to be revisited?
I don't know if social,
There is need for it to be revisited because of obviously, it's an act that was in the domain for some time, and we have had, I think it's more than 15 years, I believe. So we have to review it, but we agree that we could proclaim the act while we are working on reviewing it to do the amendments.
Member Nawala Hussain.
Chair, I just want to ask the TTRCA if you are fully aware of the Hopper Act and what areas of it do you feel maybe the homes may not be able to comply with, and the reasons why.
Could you repeat yourself again for me, please?
Are you aware of the HOP Act, the Home, and what areas of it you feel may be difficult to be compliant with, and why?
Member, can you repeat the question, please? I'm hardly hearing what you're saying.
She was asking from the association's perspective, if you are okura with the act to be proclaimed, and what aspects of the act do you think may be onerous for some of your membership?
All right. The act to be proclaimed, the Home for Older Persons Act, is better suited, much better suited for the senior citizens' homes, right? However, because of the time frame that it has been out there, as alluded to, it really needs to be reviewed. It really needs to have stakeholders' input on consultation, as, for example, this TTRCA, the Homeowners Association, and so forth. There are things in the Private Hospitals Act which we have seen that are not agreeable to the homeowners because of what the requirements are. As was stated earlier, they go for the highest level, which is level 5, and that would include medical
Can I interrupt
equipment.
you?
Sure.
Please, and I need to be specific because you're before a joint select committee. We're going to make recommendations. So I want you to be specific. What areas you find very difficult to be compliant with? And that's what I'm asking for specifically.
In the Homes for Older Persons Act.
1 to 5? The categories 1 to 5?
1 to 5 would be an issue.
Okay, what are the issues?
Well, 1 to 5 would require heavy medical equipment and so on, which homeowners basically do not have. All right, so that would be an issue. We would recommend that we at level 1 to 3, which is part of the Home for Older Persons Act. All right. Other issues would be the number of the patient-client ratio that would need to be determined. Another issue would be the financial situation in terms of the cost for residential care, and those are the type of issues that affect us. For example, with, let's say, the cost for residential care, what is being offered now by, let's say, the ministries and so forth would be inadequate to actually care for the resident. All right. And that would result in lack of compliance, lack of quality care. Because remember, as you mentioned, it's a business. And if you don't have the right resources to do your business, you would find that you lose the kind of quality of business that you're doing. So that's the kind of situations that we will be faced with.
Let me go to Member Antoine and then Member Amin.
The TTRCA is new. This act is old, and it's about to be proclaimed. What consultation has taken place between the TTRCA and the Ministry of Social Development before this act is proclaimed?
I don't think we have any consultation taking place at this time.
So you are not making any input into the act before it is being proclaimed?
Well, we would have to be invited to make an input. The association cannot on its own impact or input the act. The ministries would have to invite the association, have a stakeholders consultation, and it's at that consultation that they would be able to gather all the views and see where we have shortcomings or if there are any adjustments to be made, amendments, etc.
PS, is it that you need to solicit the input of the association, or is there a mechanism by which based on the parameters and the requirements for the homes as they exist in the association context, to become compliant at whatever level they feel they can, that they can make those recommendations in writing or in a meeting or otherwise to the ministry, so that, because the end game here is to find the best fit in terms of protection, safety, and to ensure that the homes can operate, but operate with a standard of care as mandated by the state.
Just to indicate, we do have on the agenda consultations with the key stakeholders, which will include the association, before we have the proclamation. So the working committee, they do have a work plan, and part of the work plan is that we will hold consultations.
Is there a timeline for that? I'd love to hear ministry's officials talk about consultations and plans.
The timeline, according to the work plan, I believe is April month for the consultations.
So the consultations with the association is planned for next month. But the association is saying they don't seem to know about that plan to interface with them.
Because we have not finalized the plans. We have the work plan, and we don't have specific dates as yet, but we have different periods that we want to do different things. So the consultation is carded for
Just to follow up on that, if you're having consultations in April, is it to prepare the homes for the proclamation, or is it to discuss a probable amendment to the act, in light of the fact that you're stating that it is it needs to be revised?
Two things are happening. One, we are looking at regulations, the regulations for the act as it is, and we are also reviewing the act. We're still in the process of reviewing the act, and we have agreed that we would look to proclamation for the timeline that we had given, which was the end of the third quarter of this fiscal, while we continue reviewing the act to determine the amendment, because it's going to take a much longer time for the amendment to take place.
In having stated that, if you proclaim the act in its current state and the homes are unable to be compliant, doesn't that mean that a number of elderly persons would be displaced in the meanwhile?
If I recall the act, there's a proviso for a period for the homes to become compliant with what is required.
I want some clarification. We are speaking two things here this morning. I need clarification. We speak of a Hospitals Act, and we are now speaking also of a proclamation for Older Homes Act. Could I get some clarification from both parties, from the Ministry of Health as well as Ministry of Social Services? Because, you see, we were discussing the gap, and the gap is where we have the problems emanating. So could we clarify what's going on? Two situations happening.
I mean, in terms of what Member Hussein had asked, in terms of specific items, maybe that can clarify the gaps. So if we look at the homes as type 1 to 5, the new act, which is the Home for the Aged Act, is meant to govern 1, 2, and 3, which is less medical or no medical concern, so patients that are very ambulant and able to take care of themselves. Under the Private Hospital Act, as you know, it goes up to 5. So there will be some retention of homes under 4 and 5 in the Private Hospitals Act, even after proclamation. So let us look at this simple example. There's a home for the aged that has all patients ambulant. We will expect that a nursing ratio of 1 to 15 persons is relevant for that category. If that same home, if another home had a category of patients which are number 5, the HR component of nurses will be 1 nurse to 5 patients. So there's a difference. So what we do with the Private Hospital Act, although we understand that it should be, in its purest form, it should have been 1 to 5 for everybody. We look at the home and see what types of patients we have. So if you fall in a category 1, for instance, we still issue a license if you're meeting that 1 to 15 ratio. So there's some discretion, and that's why I said the discretion comes in. If the Home for the Aged Act does the inspections, that level across 1, 2, and 3 will be 1 to 15 and apply. And I think that's where the homeowners have difficulty in complying. There's other parts that may be relevant as well in terms of the kitchen and some infrastructural issues that will be relevant and change from 1 to 5 as well.
Chairman, my question is, have you had any consultation with homeowners or with the association to determine the standards? I know you work with your standards from your medical perspective in terms of safety and so on, but in terms of what they offer and what would be sufficient for their services, have you had any consultation with them?
Right. So what we do as the Private Hospitals Board is we get the inspection report from the County Medical Officer of Health. We get actual number of patients, the type of patients that are there, and we actually have in the past called in the homeowners to the Private Hospital Board's meeting and have a consultation to determine what is reasonable and reasonable expectation to ensure the quality of care to the individuals. As was alluded before, we have a caveat where we can write to the homeowners and give them 21 days, 1 month to comply with our recommendations. So it's not like we're going to decant everyone once they don't comply at the outset. We have done that on more than one occasion where we've given people 21 days to comply, and then we review, do a second inspection, and even at that point, there may be simple things like fire certificates that might be absent, which is a statutory requirement, and it might be difficult to license in that case. We may give an extension for something like that, but it may not directly impact the patient care at the end of the day.
Chair, to follow up. So we are about identifying the gaps. So you have a procedure to make your recommendations. The homeowners, the association is saying that there are many homes who cannot meet the standards because they don't have the money to put in the infrastructure required, for example. Does the Ministry of Social Development have any financial support available to homes who are willing to but cannot afford to meet the requirements spelled out by the Ministry of Health? Do you offer financial assistance to homes?
At this point, not for that type of expenditure. It would be simply for subventions.
I want to bring DCP Philip into the conversation. DCP Philip, based on the law enforcement aspect of this, and specifically related to the incidents that may be similar to this Guardian report that I referenced earlier on regarding the Arima home that was described as a house of horrors where 20 persons were rescued, and they were just rescued, and the Guardian headline said raided. Can you give us a sense of the reporting function of how the law enforcement was made aware of this issue? And part of the article also indicated, and you can confirm or refute, preliminary police investigation suspected foul play, and I'm quoting, as they said, based on the burns about and I'm not going to call the client's name. It looked like if she was doused with a flammable liquid and lit on fire while in a seated position. The person died. What would be the protocol for law enforcement in going into these situations in terms of receiving a report and removing, if there is the suspicion by law enforcement that a crime has taken place, abuse or otherwise, or is taking place, what happens to the other clients in those instances?
With respect to the incident that would have occurred at Arima, I want to say that generally we don't have a protocol set up. However, if a report of some criminal or some crime would have occurred, some informant would contact the police, and as a result, the police would investigate. My information with respect to the incident in Arima is that a sister of the victim made a report at the Malabar police station, and then the police got involved in that investigation. And at present, that investigation is continuing. But we don't have a protocol. Anybody could make a report to the police and we come.
Give us a sense of how prevalent reports of this nature are in Trinidad and Tobago in terms of particularly related to elderly abuse. And maybe your Ms. Corby from Victim and Support can give us an indication as to what your experience has been in victim support with reports of this nature and how prevalent they may be regarding elderly abuse or crimes related to elderly persons in Trinidad and Tobago.
From data collected over the last 3 years, from 16, 17, and 18, we would have seen, this is not limited to homes because we have very minimal information with respect to incidents at elderly homes. We would have seen in terms of serious crimes, where we would have had about, let us say on average, about 12,000 and a little over 12,000 general serious crimes in Trinidad. We would have seen at least 1,000 of those crimes, 1,000, just about 1,200 over the years, being committed against the elderly. We would have seen, yes, and we would have seen a higher percentage committed against males than females. And these offenses would have ranged from, in terms of violent crimes, from murder to larceny and so on. There is some reports with respect to domestic violence, but that in itself too is very minimal. We would have seen, in terms of some of the crimes that the offenders, the elderly, would have been committing, we would have seen incidents in terms of, I want to say, possession of marijuana and so on. Probably, when police go to raid homes, some of these elderly, they are at the home with their children, so sometimes they get arrested. We also see, and some
they get arrested because marijuana has been found in the domicile.
On the premises.
So and it may not be the possession of, but of course everybody gets.
Well, the way the law goes,
yeah.
those once you're occupier of the premises, you get that. But in terms of being victims, we see that house break-ins and robberies and larcenies, that comprise the majority.
So then a trend increasing from 16 through 18, or is it stable or decreasing?
Basically, they appear pretty stable, probably in the vicinity of an average of about 350, about, let us say, 400 per year.
Just a quick question. In light of the fact that so many reports are you're attending to, can the Ministry of Social Development and Family Services indicate how many elder abuse complaints have you received, whether it's through your OPEC or otherwise? And during the same period, 2016 to current?
I don't have the information readily available, but I could say through the OPIC in fiscal 2018 that we would have registered 110 reports of elder abuse at private residences and 45 at senior citizens' homes. So we do get reports from private residences and from homes, yes. So for the period June 2018 to present, those are the records. 110 reports of elder abuse in private homes, where your home, and 45 in elderly homes.
In all fairness to you, I wanted Mr. Philip to disaggregate his information because you gave a broad outline as to abuses experienced by elderly, but I want you to disaggregate it and tell us from those figures how many of those related to abuse which took place at geriatric homes or homes run by persons that we have identified earlier.
In terms of our data capture, we had some difficulties in making a fair assessment with respect to reports that we get from elderly homes. So But by and large, is very, very minimal in terms of the number of reports. But we were not able to make a fair assessment in terms of. So even on yesterday's data, I'm just saying, given we decided to just take a random sample and call, in terms of the reports and the contacts that we had, in terms of just to find out whether the reports that we had were in fact occurred at elderly homes. So on either side, we call about 40 persons. And none of those 40 persons who called randomly said that any of their complaints emanated from homes. But I am saying that we had a little difficulty in capturing, the information to pin down with respect to the homes. But I'm saying it's very minimal.
Chair, Chair, if I may, I just wanted to indicate that over the period I indicated, we would have referred 6 cases from homes to the police out of the number that I gave.
Chairman, I wanted to get what is the role of the victim support unit when you have instances that reach to the police?
Thank you very much. The Victim and Witness Support Unit Chair, the role of our unit would extend the same, whether it's a report against an elderly person or another type of victim. So once a matter is referred to the Victim and Witness Support Unit, we would then put into place our usual policy and protocol in addressing the needs of that victim, which would be a needs assessment, doing relevant counseling, updates on the investigation as such. But I want to also submit, based on our recent experience, matters of victims requiring assistance that are elderly would range between about 20 to 30 for a quarter, which is very low in terms of persons over 60. And these would very rarely be persons from institutions. They would most likely be persons that would have been impacted by a different type of crime, be it a murder or assault and burglaries. But there obviously can be the issue of underreporting. And what we've done is that through our engagements and outreach with the community, in particular last year, we would have gone to the St. James Western community and would have found that there are high levels amongst the community members, there are high levels of concern relative to elder abuse. And coming out of that, we would have initiated a project to go into the community and engage homes as well as elderly, and to have an outreach and sensitize them on this issue so as to assist with deterrence as well as the prevention of future abuses against the elderly. So I think that is one of the initiatives that the Victim and Witness Support Unit is engaging in so as to promote greater sensitization and increase the reporting of these instances against our older persons, because it is indeed an issue of great concern to the Victim and Witness Support Unit because, of course, the elderly is one of our vulnerable groups. Okay?
Member Hussein, I know you have to leave, so.
Thank you, Chair. I do have to leave. I just want to ask a couple of questions based on Mr. Phillips' statement, of course, from the victim abuse. In light of the fact that you have, you do work with the community, is it extended to the community watch groups and residents, and in particular with burglaries and break-ins? And also, now that we have an association in place, will you be working with the association? And I just want to also ask a question based on it. Now that it has come to our attention that the victim support, in fact, provides counseling and assistance, is there a relationship between the Ministry of Social Development and the Ministry of Health in terms of the counseling sessions, so that there isn't too much of an overlapping in this regard? What is your way forward in terms of the relationship that you will have with the community?
In terms of the TTPS, certainly we generally the police officers within the district, and by extension our community police officers, part of their mandate is to ensure that they pay attention to the vulnerable groups within the community, and these include the elderly persons within the community. However, in terms of working alongside with the Ministry of Health and the Ministry of Social Development, I cannot say that we have any, what I would say, we haven't meaningfully probably been engaging them because we're probably doing some work together. Well, in terms of they have made reports for us to investigate, certainly. But in terms of the broader community work, generally when we do some of our community policing outreach initiatives, we in fact collaborate with the Ministry of Social Development to assist us and so on.
I want to, go ahead, Member Chris.
Sorry, thanks. In your statement, you indicated that you were engaging new partners and relationships that you're attempting to foster. Could you identify those new relationships and persons that you're trying to foster relationships with?
Okay. We have done a number of outreaches. We call them PIEs, where we provide information to the community. So we have been liaising in particular with the Ministry of Rural Development and Local Government and the corporations because they're in the communities. We also worked with victim and witness support and recognized that we need to come up with the protocols for engagement. For example, if we refer a matter of abuse to victim and witness support, they would usually do the counseling initially with the family and the victim, and then there will be a referral back to Ministry of Social Development in terms of National Family Services Division. So our engagement with the new partners are really the NGOs and communities. We've also been targeting the MP offices because we did have PIEs for all the constituencies, providing the information in terms of the services and what we are doing even for the elderly and elder abuse. And we are also engaging some additional social sector agencies. So these are the ones that we have been targeting.
Before I leave, I do apologize for leaving, but I just want to indicate, based on your last statement, my office hasn't received any notice from you. Thank you.
Thank you. Go ahead, Member Shanice.
I want to come back to earlier in our discussion today, we referred to a Guardian newspaper report. Can I ask the police, what is the status of that investigation into the abuse at that home?
Based on an update that I got yesterday, well, in particular, based on an update I got yesterday with respect to the investigation in terms of the death, there was a report of, that matter, that investigation is ongoing. What I also am aware about is that my information is that the occupants of that home were taken to another location, and in terms of any other abuses, I am not aware about any investigations with respect to that. But what we are investigating is there's a death, an incident of death at that home, which occurred just before. I think that incident was just before, and that is what probably would have brought that home into the spotlight with respect to that is my understanding.
So great, thank you. And so I want to see collaboration and action here. So this happened, and you all are investigating this matter. Can I get some information as to the current operational status of that home?
Thank you. Chair, that home has been shut down. We would have received written notice to cease operations.
I would hope so. Member West, you had a question?
Yes, Chair, thank you. To both Dr. Parasram and Mrs. Bailey Sobers, can you give us a sense of what factors are taken into account or will be taken into account when you operationalize your legislation to arrive at a decision that a home should be licensed or not licensed? I assume the physical infrastructure is one of them. Dr. Parasram indicated that the ratio of caregivers to patients is another one. But do you also take account of the character of the individuals? Do you have a certificate of good character from the police, not only in terms of the care providers, but also in terms of other persons working in the facility to minimize the risk of exposure of our elderly to abusive situations?
Thank you, Member. All the factors that you mentioned would be taken into consideration. I'm aware that we'll also be taking into consideration the training and qualifications of the persons, the managers, and the persons providing care. And we also have some measure of the infrastructure. I'm not sure I heard you mention it. Probably you did, but the infrastructure, we also have to look at another piece of legislation that would speak to that is under the purview of the Ministry of Planning, and we work in collaboration with them on that particular piece of legislation for the infrastructure. I'll also ask Ms. Siwaju if she could put some added information to this, because she works with the instrument right now in terms of when the investigations are done. Ms. Siwaju, do you have anything to add?
Thank you, Chairman. There are 5 areas. So some of what you would have mentioned and what PS would have mentioned, they are subsumed under the 5 broad categories. So for example, things like training, management, qualification, those things, that's standards of care. Personal environment and safety is another area, and that speaks to the infrastructural inputs, that the home has separate accommodation, eating, those things. Administration and management is another area, so that speaks to the, looks at the home's ability to sustain itself, the manager, the requisite qualifications. Emergency procedures as a separate area, and that would have been done in consultation with looking at the necessary inputs the home has to cater to an emergency scenario. And the last one is policies of the home, which is not under administration, but speaks to the home's the areas that the home has put in place to ensure that there are standard procedures and policies that govern its operations. So a lot of what you spoke to, they're subsumed under the different categories, but those are the 5 primary areas, in addition to the statutory things, registered as a business, the necessary town and country approvals, those things.
In our final moments, I'm going to give Mrs. Ruiz a heads up that I'm coming to you last. Because of the immediacy of the issues before us, and because your organization is a new one, and we've discussed quite a number and a range of issues today, and we would like from you some specific requests from your organization that would help, because while I commend the organization, it has taken on quite a monumental task in trying to be a self-regulating agency for homes in Trinidad and Tobago. And why I may sound a bit urgent about this is because while we are speaking, I am pretty sure that someone is being abused right now or neglected, an elderly person, under some context. And those people deserve the right of rescue from the state, or care, or mandatory standard of care from the state. So while we're talking here, someone is not receiving a proper standard of care. I'm absolutely sure about that, and that is unacceptable. I'm not saying it's through anyone here's fault, but it's because of something we are not doing collectively, and we have to address that. So I'm going to ask you specifically, so you can start wrapping your head around it, regarding what your organization needs specifically from the Ministries of Social Development and Family Services and the Ministry of Health and any other agency, including this committee, that would assist, so that we can put it in our recommendations listing. And before we come to you, I want to direct a couple of questions to the CMO and the Mr. Ali, and also possibly Ms. Bailey Sobers. Mr. Ali, you indicated very early in our conversation that there's a discrepancy between the number of homes that Mrs. Ruiz indicates have been identified by her 239 compared to the 219. And we need to have some sort of reconciliation of those numbers. And I'm sure those are not all the homes that are operating for us to get a comprehensive understanding of what we're dealing with. And just for clarity, this is Trinidad and Tobago, right? Yes. Right, both islands in the state. Mr. Ali, you indicated there are 219 identified by the ministry. 84 applied. Is that correct? 19 licensed. No. 19 recommended for licensing. What does that mean? What does that mean? What will licensing entitle them to? Operational authorization? What does that mean for the public?
So they recommended for license means that they have passed the inspection and have been recommended by the inspection team to the private hospitals board that they are suitable to have a license. Of course, the administrative part for some of them have not been done, which means paying for your license and applying for your license.
And license mean you're also eligible for state funding at some level.
Well, licensing means that you're licensed under the Private Hospitals Act.
Right, Private Hospitals Act.
Yeah.
Right. Of the 84 now,
yep.
You said there's a cadre who have not applied and are operating.
Yes.
Right? Have any assessments taken place where those are concerned?
Yeah, as I said in the beginning, after we did the critical 43, we decided with or without a license application, we are going to inspect all of the 219, which we have started. So some of the 84 belongs to that category, which means that we would have inspected some, recommended some for license, but we can't grant the license, the actual license, because they haven't applied.
And the ones who have not been recommended for licensing, what is the status of those?
Right, so most of them would have been, one, at the inspection team level, they would have been informed of what are the discrepancies, and from the private hospitals board level, when they send that up to us, we write them formally, giving them different lengths of time. It depends on the issue. So someone might have some remedial work to do in the kitchen alone. We will give them maybe 2 weeks to comply. We do a revisit. So that happens, and then we issue the license thereafter.
And with the 43 that have been red flagged as urgent, what is the status of those, and what are the consequences for non-compliance? Because behavior change does not occur without consequence.
So the majority of the 43, as I said, we have received all the reports for them. They have been sent to the private hospitals board for consideration. Some of them have been written to already, giving the 21 days or 1 month to comply with so we are in that phase where we're waiting to do the reinspection based on our recommendations to the individual homeowners. When we do the reinspection, then our choices are, one, to do a further extension based on what we find, or to actually do closure. So that is, we are within the period to make that decision.
So within 21 days, it's safe?
21 days is an arbitrary number, but we use different lengths depending on what are the defects.
Well, we want some specificity from this committees, because very often these things go roll and roll and roll on, and entities and businesses need to realize that there are consequences for non-compliance. And if we keep extending within a reasonable frame, no one changes.
I think
and people are not receiving the standard of care.
So I think we have to take one thing into consideration when we contemplate closure. On average, we have usually about 15 to 20 persons in any given home. Some less, some more. If we are to close a great proportion, if we are to close, let us say, 50% of the homes, we have to consider where are we going to decant these people to. And that is a consideration of the private hospital.
Obscene.
Yeah.
The alternative and deciding we're leaving them there because we're not making provisions for them elsewhere is obscene.
Right. So I think we have to put things in place early on to see, even when the home was closed down in a remand, we had 20 people to decant. And we work with social development. It was difficult to get places in suitable homes for those 20 people, which we have gotten.
Well, they're in unsuitable homes now.
That's right. So we have to find suitable alternatives.
And in terms of the 43 also, and the Ministry of Social Development told us in the first meeting that there were 9 red flag for closure, if I remember correctly. What is the status of those? Because that was months ago, and they were red flagged at that time. I think some in St. James and other areas.
We would have referred all in the 30 to Ministry of Health to do the assessment and investigation. So some of those they may have gone into, most likely because they are almost through it, all 43, and they would have had reports and they would take the action based on the reports.
While I understand Dr. Parashram and Mr. Ali and your reticence to close home in the absence of making provisions which are mandatory for decanting clients, I think the alternative really is unacceptable. So we have to find, if we see there are homes that are non-compliant and not making any efforts to be compliant, the state has to act. So I would hate for us to come back in 3 months and nothing has been done. You know, Member Sinan, sorry.
Get this point in, because I am a bit concerned that this new act went through Parliament over a year ago. It was not proclaimed. And normally when you have an act that goes through Parliament and you don't proclaim it soon after, it's because you give some time to operationalize and to get the stakeholders to get their act together. What I'm concerned about, what I'm hearing here, is that there's a total disconnect between the providers, social service, and the Ministry of Health, with the clear objective that once we operationalize this act, you're supposed to be compliant. Now, you can give a grace period and say, look, we're giving you 6 months. But if you haven't done it, knowing fully well what is required under the act in almost 2 years, are you going to do it in the next 6 months? It'll be a sad day in this country when we have to bring down the standard of healthcare to suit the homes. And I'm getting the feeling that that is the direction we're going into. This is a business. And you have to have the love for the business. Because if you don't have the love for it, you wouldn't get into it. But at the end of the day, I am sure a very small percentage of the owners do it for the sake of the love of doing it. It is a business. And in a business, sometimes you have to take the decision, either you're in or you're out. Because we cannot continue to bring the healthcare down to suit the providers. The providers have to get the standard up to suit what is required. All right? My closing comment, Chair, is that we need to have a proper enforcement by the regulator, whoever it is, whether it is the Ministry of Social Service, Ministry of Health, and with assistance from the association. But we must never delay the procurement of the law, because the proclamation, of the law, because the homeowners cannot provide the sort of standard that is required at this stage. So I just want to tell the association and the homeowners that you have to get your standard up. We cannot just keep tapering the act and bringing the standard of healthcare down. We cannot do that, because one day we too will get old and we too will want that high standard of healthcare. So let us please drive that, even if it means we have to close down some, even if it means some people have to get out of the business, and we have to encourage new people to get into the business. We may have to go in that direction. But the Ministry of Health and the Ministry of Social Service will have to have something in place in the interim, because we can't just leave people out in the cold. So maybe the Ministry of Health and Social Services must look now, and look, there is going to be a time that, look, we will have to close down some people. But I am sure, like any business, when some get out, some will get in. Because healthcare for the elderly is a ballooning business, not only in Trinidad, but in all parts of the world. And it is time that we get our standard up. We have our standard at international level in restaurants, in discotheque, in everything. Why we can't have it in healthcare for the elderly?
I haven't heard that word in such a long time, discotheque. Thank you, Member Jennings.
As we are on the standard of care, I'm well aware that, in Trinidad, the pension checks of these old people is really the standard of payment for these homes. And I want to ask, who gets subvention? Subvention are paid to certain homes. Who determines that? What's the standard of eligibility to obtain subventions from the ministry?
At present, we have 9 homes receiving subventions, and these homes receive subventions for a number of years. They have been receiving subventions, and generally they have to be an NGO. They are not for profit. So once you're for profit, you will not get a subvention.
Bring up now, Mrs. Ruiz.
Chair, if I might.
If you go ahead. Sorry.
This is a precursor to the response that I'm looking for from Mrs. Reyes based on your question. I am not clear on what the association sees as its mandate. Do you view yourself as an advocate for homes, or are you aspiring to be a self-regulatory body?
Advocate for homes.
And if, in adding to the suggestions you indicated you wanted to hear from Ms. Ruiz, if we could indicate whether you have had the association has had any consultation on the ministry's, their handbook and manuals for homeowners, and if you are satisfied with the contents or the provisions made in there towards the homeowners, or if you have had any opportunity to make an input.
Mr. Chairman, we dealt with Ministry of Health. That was the only place we got in to be able to let them understand what homeowners have been faced with, right? And I'm sitting here and I'm listening, and my mind is just going because there's so many things I want to say, right? When you talk about the pension checks, for instance, I remember, and it's not just me, most homes had their homes running to a standard. And by assisting the Division of Aging or the RHAs with the elderly, it took a lot of the homes right down. The money is just $3,000. $3,000 cannot maintain a person. It can't. It's not working. It's not working. And that is why I think homes are at the place that they are at now. And I'm saying this because I'm feeling so much emotions running through, because this is a job that we have to do day and night.
So the ministry sends patients to you and pay you $3,000 a month?
$3,000, and for wheelchair patients and clients and stuff, we get $4,000 or $5,000, right? But basically it's $3,000. And I mean, I have known of homes that have reached to where they go into them and say, here what, we can't make. We can't make, we don't even know how we're going to do it for food. And no help was given. No help was given. And on saying that, we had to end up returning, some of us had to end up returning our patients because we were looking for loans and looking for help, right? And many didn't have opportunities as some of the others to get that, right? And that puts you at a low operational standard, right? And we never had a voice, right? We couldn't go nowhere because VOA has made us believe, right, that we should be afraid of them rather than work with us and let us know. We want to be, there is not one home that is perfect across the board, not one. As a homeowner, I can say that.
We're not looking for perfection, we're looking for a standard of care. And we're running out of time, so
yes,
I'm sorry to cut you. I know Member Antoine has a question, and we're going to ask you to give your recommendations.
Yes. In the discourse today, the TTRCA says they have 239 homes they know about. Do you have a list of these homes?
Yes. We we gave Ministry of Health.
Right. Could you supply that to the committee?
I think I did. I think I did when I sent JSC the
We have on the speaker's
letters.
section.
I did.
239.
Yes.
Okay.
I did.
But the Ministry of Health is saying they have 219. Could you submit that list of 219? Because there seem to be 20 homes seems to be in abeyance. Right? So if Ministry of Health could submit the 219.
I could just add some clarity, Member Antoine. What we have from the association is the 115 members, not the 239.
Yeah.
And I might also add that the list has, we need to disaggregate the list in terms of some of the homes have one owner. So you might have 4 homes with one owner. So keep that in mind. Mrs. Ruiz, you can go ahead with your recommendations, please.
Okay. Before we close up, I want to get this in. So I'll go with this because I'm getting a bit emotional and I'm sorry. I would like to propose that Homes for Older Persons Act 2007 and its Regulation 2009 be reviewed. To support this, consultation must occur with TTRCA, being the main stakeholder in the process of it as it relates to homes for the elderly. With respect to inspection process, I would also propose that TTRCA should be a part of the facility review team with a representative from our association to maintain transparency and integrity of the inspection. 3, we created meaningful employments, yet we have no real job stability within our industry. We employ over 3,000 citizens, many a times. Their salary is unreachable. And our operational standards are depleting as well due to financial constraints. We propose that the rate of $6,000 for residential care be standardized across the board. The age of 60 years and over be reviewed, since younger persons are coming in to seek our help due to early illnesses. Clarification, verification, and advice of types of homes to be provided. Certificate, verifications, qualifications, programs be put in place to assist the older masters of the trade in attaining certification. Because there are many elderly that comes to help, they know better than most of the young people, right? So we need to get them certified also to do the job, right? In saying that, we need to have plenty of discussions. I know that right now I'm a bit emotional because I want to say so much before I leave this room because I'm happy to get this opportunity. But I want to say as a homeowner and as the president of TTRCA that we need a lot of discussions, a lot of conversations. And nobody heard us before TTRCA because many of us went in individually to try to get their attention and seek help. And we never got that. So in saying that, Mr. Chairman, I would like to thank you for the opportunity for us being here, the committee members, the Ministry of Health, the Ministry of Social Division and Social Welfare and Family Services, and my next seater here, TTPS. Thank you for being here, and thank you for having all of us. Thank you.
Thank you. In closing, I would just say just to address Mrs. Ruiz. It is commendable that you formed this organization, extremely commendable. And you've been able to do quite a bit of work in quite a short time frame with having been able to attract 115 members out of a possible average of 239 or 219 homes, depending on which agency you're taking your data from. But I think it would be irresponsible of me not to suggest that while your intentions seem very honorable and admirable, I'm trying to be very careful with what I say. You need to be careful about your resources and what you can do. And as Member West asked, what specifically your mandate is. Because if the public is listening and hearing, well, X home and Y home is a member of TTRCA, what does that mean? Does that mean that this home is recognized and is operating at a particular standard? Does that mean that the organization is going to vouch that this home is at least trying to operate at a particular level? Because I will tell you, if Bougainvillea is a home, I hope there's no home called Bougainvillea. All right, if Caribbean Sea is a home, let me take out Bougainvillea, is a home, and it is registered as a member of the organization, and it is found to be wanting, you have a problem with credibility. And if you add 5 to that out of 115, your organization's credibility will be shattered. So you have to establish some standards of operation, and I know it's early days still, for your membership in terms of their operation, because if you don't do that, you run the risk of undoing all the good intention and all the good work that I'm sure you have planned. And you have a very limited staff from what I can see, or very limited resources. And as they say, the road to hell is paved with good intention. And I would hate for your admirable intention in forming this organization to be undermined by you not insisting on your membership adhere to particular standards of operation, which, in my opinion, should be directed by the Ministries of Social Development and Family Services and the Ministry of Health in terms of the both acts that we have cited today. So that is just my little advice to you, because I would hate to see your work fall apart based on a lack of adherence to some basic level of standard. And as Member Sinanan said, maybe some people should not be in this business, quite frankly. Maybe some people don't have the resources, the skill, the training, the experience to be in this business. And that's a fact of life. Not everyone wanting to be in the business should be in the business if they're unwilling to adhere to particular standards, okay? I'd invite closing comments from Mr. Ali, Mr. Philip, and Dr. Parasram, if you want to disaggregate, PS Bailey Sobers, and Mr. Philip, DCP. Philip, please. Let me start with the Ministry of Health officials.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Chair and members of the committee and my colleagues. I think the discussion has been very productive. It has been very open and frank. I just want to reassure the committee that from the Ministry of Health's perspective, the quality of care to the elderly is paramount. We are not prepared to compromise in terms of the standards. CMO alluded to the fact that we would meet with the homes where they are found to have deficiencies, and we do work with them. If they are not prepared to meet those corrective actions, or it's not happening, we will do what we have to do, which we have done. But we do believe in collaboration, which is why we've been working with the TTRCA and will continue to work with them, so that their members and even other homes are aware of what is required under our existing legislation, which we have right now, and we will also continue to work with social development as we seek to transition. We want to make sure there are no gaps and no one falls through the gaps while that transition takes place. All right, so I just want to reassure the committee of that, and I've taken note of the need for, Member Senator mentioned the need for the monitoring of the homes, and that is something we will definitely be looking at, notwithstanding that social development is going to be proclaiming the act soon. Monitoring has to happen regardless. All right, we will be looking at that. And as I said, thank you again, Chair.
Mrs. Bailey Sober.
Thank you, Chair. Again, we want to just add to our colleagues in health to say thanks for having us and to commit to the timelines that we have given on the ongoing work and collaboration with the Ministry of Health and all other key stakeholders. I also want to reassure everyone that the Ministry of Social Development is always willing to work with every partner, every stakeholder within the various sectors for which we have responsibility. And so we would be very willing to work with the association going forward. And I'm sure, I didn't hear from Ms. Yawaju on it, but I'm sure the Division of Aging would have worked with the association before, but I don't have the details in terms of those activities and arrangements that may have taken place, so that I can't speak to it directly, but we are always willing to work with agencies in the various sectors, and to indicate also that we have always worked with the NGO sector in particular, and not necessarily with the private sector and persons who work for profit. So that may have been an issue there in terms of how much we can do, because our mandate is the NGO sector. So I believe we need to look at it to see, okay, this is an area we need to give urgent attention. How can we work with the sector in the private and the non-profit to improve the standards and to improve the care to the elderly within the homes? Yeah? So we want to commit, and we want to thank you, and we feel that the engagement here was very enlightening for us and very rewarding as we move forward to meet our objectives. So thanks again.
Thank you, and I'll always say, we don't need a joint select committee for engagement at this level. It seems to be the catalyst for engagement, the type of engagement we want. And while I segue to DCP of Police, Acting DCP Philip, let me just add, not to try to come across as the person who wants, I have no intention or great need to close down homes. I don't want it to go out like that. But if we do not, as has been proven with Commissioner Griffith, if people feel or organizations feel that they are slipping through the cracks as they have for decades in this country, and there's no consequence for their malfeasance or neglect, they will continue the way they're going. Consequence changes behavior. And I'm an advocate of give people an opportunity, give them the support, give them the guidance, and if they have proven that they don't want to change, shut it down. Shut it down. 1, 2, 3, and people will start to get the message. Because I am sure out of the 119 homes that we've identified, I am sure there are 5 of them that shouldn't be operating now. DCP Philip.
Like my other colleagues, I would want to thank the committee for inviting the Trinidad and Tobago Police Service to be here to partake in this discussion. We would continue to collaborate with our stakeholders, and we would also want to assure the public that as we continue to work, we would want to ensure the safety and security of the elderly in Trinidad and Tobago as part of the larger community. I thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you all for being here, all the heads of the entities and all their colleagues, and the persons who paid us a visit and attended in the public gallery, and also to members of the media and the Secretariat. We thank you for your attention and your time, and this meeting is here, and also members of the committee, this meeting is hereby adjourned.